Greetings everyone, Ben here from The Virtual Economist and welcome to a new video. Okay, so I hear some of you guys want me to make a video about how to negotiate. Now, I'm going to be fully honest here, I don't think I could have put it off any longer. But nonetheless, here finally is my first fully fledged video about how to negotiate. Wait, first? Well, as I went through the process of writing the script and recording this video, well, I realized it was going to be pretty freaking long. Thus, because I don't like uploading 20-minute long videos, I figured it would be best if I split this up into two parts, with the first episode talking more about the general theory of negotiation, leaving the second episode to talk about more practical examples, as well as just general negotiating tips. Hopefully, this should allow me to go into the detail that I want to, without being worried about the overall length of the video. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right on into the first part about how to negotiate, the theory of negotiation. First off, I would like to put a large misconception to rest. I feel like some people seem to think that negotiating is some mystical art that only expert psychologists can master, something that is impossible for new traders to learn. While I will agree that being able to negotiate well can largely increase your chances of getting a good trade, I do want to point out here that most of what I'm going to be talking about in this video is just logic and common sense. The whole point of negotiating is to try and get people to agree to your deal, a deal that is favorable to you, and a lot of the strategies that you guys will use are honestly pretty intuitive once you get the hang of it. Hopefully, after this video, you guys should realize that negotiating maybe is not quite as hard as I may have hyped it up to be. Alright, so with that in mind, let's get right on into it. Before you even say hello to your trading partner, the very first thing you absolutely must do is find a way to view their backpack in backpack.tf. This is because I believe the first step in the negotiating process is to familiarize yourself with your trading partner, and viewing their backpack in backpack.tf is by far the best way to do that. Now, you might be thinking, well, how the heck do I find somebody's backpack.tf profile? Well, if you've watched my TF2 life hacks video, then you already know the answer. You basically have to find somebody else's Steam community URL. If you want a more in-depth tutorial about how to find this on every platform, I would go ahead and watch that life hacks video. However, if you are too lazy to do that, here's the quick rundown if you have somebody's profile right on up on Steam. Number 1. Right-click anywhere on the profile and hit copy page URL. Wow, you're done! If you want to go ahead and put that into backpack.tf, you should, number 2, go to backpack.tf and paste the URL into the search. If it doesn't come right on up, delete the text before and after the actual name or identification number, and it should come right on up. Alright, now that you have their backpack in an easy to view manner, you can go ahead and start to analyze it. To be honest, this is probably one of the most overlooked parts of the negotiating process, so we'll go ahead and spend a good amount of time on this. Boiled down to its core, you are basically trying to, number 1, get familiar with the unusuals or expensive items they could offer with, and number 2, determine how much experience they have. The first part is pretty straightforward. Most people will have maybe 1 to 5 unusuals in their backpack, so before you even start negotiating, you should look at each and every unusual and figure out its tier level by comparing its positive and negative attributes. This way you already know what is good and bad before any offers have been made, and this will help you focus in the offering process. I've talked about unusual tiers a number of times in past episodes, so I'm not going to go in depth about them here, but if you do want to rewatch episodes 2 and 5, the links will be in the description below. The second part is judging the experience of your trading partner. Essentially, if you know how long they've been trading, you can deduce how much they might know about the subject, and can use that information to tailor offers that they might be more inclined to accept. While there are a million different ways to gauge trader experience by looking at a user's backpack, I found that looking at just backpack value is the easiest way to do this, simply because backpack value and experience are often highly correlated. If you find a player who has just 1 or 2 unusuals and has a backpack less than $200, it's pretty safe to say that you're dealing with a newer trader. This has its pros and cons for negotiating. Usually newer traders don't necessarily know what is good or bad, so you might be able to get away by offering a bad unusual for a strictly better one, which you could resell for pure overpay. However, these traders also avoid risks at all costs, so offering your unusual weapon might not work out very well. Furthermore, these traders don't often know what is or is not a quick sell price or when they need to overpay, so you have to be cautious about making offers right off the bat that are too extreme. You're never at fault when this happens, but if you start out with a low offer and they call you a massive lowballer, it's going to be pretty hard to convince them to take any subsequent offers that you make. On the other hand, if the user has multiple unusuals and has a backpack worth over, say, $1,000, it's pretty safe to say they are dealing with a much more skilled trader. From my experience, it is pretty much impossible to get a quote-unquote good deal from these traders simply because they know how to tell a good offer from a bad one. They usually know what hats are strictly better than others, what is a good quick sell price, and what is a waste of their time. Because of this, if you're a newer trader, I would just avoid trading with these people entirely. However, as you get more experienced, you can actually use some of their knowledge to your advantage. Most of the time, they will know when they have a bad hat, so it's actually pretty easy to get them to overpay on your better hat. In addition, it is also easier to get them to quick sell for a significant discount since they won't have the delusional belief that 10% off is a viable quick sell. As you get more and more experienced yourself, you'll probably realize that there are a lot more ways you can judge trader experience beyond just looking at total backpack value. For example, the slope of the graph, unusual histories, or just other types of items in a backpack can actually give you a lot more information about who you're trading with. I do think it's worth pointing out, however, that backpack values and any other indicator of trader experience don't always point to exactly what you might expect. Sometimes you can have an inexperienced person with a large backpack, or an experienced person with a small backpack, and in these cases, you're going to have to use other information to clear things up for yourself. Anyway, at this point, I think we are ready to jump into the formal negotiations. First things first, when you start talking to someone, I would make sure to be as friendly as you can. You wouldn't believe how many trades you can make just by being nice. Thus, I would always start off by saying something like hello with a smiley face or a good-natured what can I do for you. This way, you start off the negotiations on good terms. Just don't be that one guy who starts things off with a question mark or just a plain what. Trust me, that won't help you one bit. With that in mind, it is time for the first offer to be made. Traditionally, whoever initiates the trade is expected to make the first offer. After all, if someone trades you first, they must have had some interest in a hat of yours to trade you up in the first place, whereas you may not have had any interest in any of their items. For the purpose of this video, let's assume that you initiated the trade and thus have to offer first. At this point, you should know what unusuals they have and have gained a rough estimate of their experience, so you can start to put some of this information to use. If they look inexperienced, maybe try offering your worst hat on their strictly better one. Or if they look experienced, maybe try and go with a more conservative approach by offering your worst hat with maybe a key or two overpay. Also, if possible, try and use this information to offer something that might get them invested in the trade. For example, if they look like a spy main, maybe try offering your spy hat first, and so on and so forth. However, regardless of what you do not offer exactly what you think is the most fair deal right off the bat. This is what I consider to be the first golden rule of negotiation. Your first offer should always be so much better than what you expect your trading partner to accept. This is because of two reasons. Number one, it allows you to steal an insane deal if your trading partner is willing to agree to the first offer, and number two, gives you a lot of room to fall back and concede later in the negotiations. Almost 90% of the time, your trading partner will decline your first offer simply because it is too good for you. However, it gives you an initial point of negotiation that is in your favor. If they decline the trade, they may counteroffer or expect you to offer again. Either way, you should always ask them exactly why they declined the trade. This is super important because it can give you more information about how to tailor your next offer. Usually they will respond with something as simple as it is too low, but they might also say something like, quote, I don't really care for sniper hats, or quote, I don't like orbiting effects. Sometimes they might even be blunt and say something like, quote, I don't like any of the hats you could offer. While this might seem bad, it can quickly tell you that there is almost zero way you can actually get a trade with this person, and you can politely close the trade window and go and find someone else to trade up. Let's assume that they don't like your first offer and decided to make a counter offer. Typically, this is an offer that is way worse than what you would be willing to accept, but again, this gives you more information about how much your trading partner is willing to offer. Next, using the information that you've learned so far, you should go ahead and make another offer that is just a little bit better for your trading partner than your original offer. For example, if you learn they like Demo Man hats, you might try and offer an equal value Demo Man hat over a Pyro hat. Or if they thought that the offer was too low, maybe you could go ahead and add a key or so in suites. If they don't like this new offer, they may try and counter with another offer and you might counter the counter, and so on and so forth. Essentially, as long as it looks like you are getting somewhere with the negotiations, you should continue to bounce offers off of each other, slowly conceding a little bit more to each other. However, in order to do this the most effectively, you need to figure out who actually has the power to dictate the trade and use this to tailor your offers. Well, what do I mean by this? Basically, you need to judge how the trade is going so you can figure out which person has more leverage in the negotiations. If you can do that, you can figure out exactly when you need to concede in the next offer and when you can force your trading partner to concede by holding firm. Now, is there any good rule for figuring this out? Well, it turns out there actually is, and this brings me to what I consider to be the second golden rule of negotiation. Whoever can back out of a trade with the least regrets controls the grounds of the trade. Boom. Now this is very important. Basically, this says that whoever doesn't really want to make the trade has the upper grounds when it comes to holding firm. Now, if you really think about it, this should make sense, because if you really want the items of your trading partner and they don't want yours, it's going to be pretty hard to stay firm when they can just threaten to leave. Thus, if you really want an item of your trading partners, you're going to have to be proactive and make good offers yourself. On the other hand, if your partner really wants your items, you can play hardball in the negotiations. Stay firm whenever possible and never accept the trade unless you are absolutely sure that they cannot make the offer any better. Judging from this, you may have started thinking about how you can give yourself the upper ground when you may have been falling behind in the negotiations. Essentially, you need to get yourself in a position where you don't actually want to make the trade, right? Well, most of the time, no. If you just act like you don't want your trading partner's items, they may well just conclude that neither person wants to trade and they might just leave. So instead, I would try to make offers that increasingly appeal to your partner more than you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to add more items of value, and in fact, you're probably doing it wrong if you're doing that. Instead, you just need to add items that will appeal to them, and it can be just as simple as adding items as suites that are for the classes that they main. Ultimately, the goal here is to get them more and more invested in the trade. Because if you can make them more invested in the trade than you, then suddenly you can play hardball and expect them to cough up more in ads. If you continue to make and receive more and more offers, you should be able to start to figure out what the lowest you would be willing to go is. You should also be able to pinpoint the exact point in which your trading partner is willing to go no higher, essentially the point where they stay firm regardless of how much they want your items. And this second point actually brings me to what I consider to be the third golden rule of negotiating. The point at which your trading partner can go no higher will decide whether you can make a trade or not. Now, this honestly shouldn't be that groundbreaking. If you place your first offer and the lowest you would be willing to go on a visual spectrum, then you can use the highest your partner is willing to go to see if you can actually make a trade. If their highest offer is less than your lowest price, then you're most likely going to have to decline their offer and close the trade window, since they are simply not willing to make an offer that is good for you. However, if this point is at or in between your lowest price and your first offer, then you should go ahead and make the trade, because at least the way you see it, it is advantageous to you. And that is basically the process you can use to approach any negotiation, no matter what items you are trading for. In an oversimplified way, you essentially have to, number 1, learn about your trading partner, number 2, make or receive the first offer, number 3, keep making and receiving offers until you find the point in which your trading partner can go no higher, and then number 4, if this offer is better than the lowest you are willing to go, then go ahead and accept the trade. And there you have it. That is basically it for the overall theory of negotiation. Now, if you thought everything in this video was far too generic, don't fear. In the second part of the series, I'm going to delve into a number of practical applications of this information, such as how to negotiate when you're buying a quick sell and making a good unusual for unusual offer. I will also spend a good amount of time going over important tips and tricks that were simply too specific for this video, so look forward to that as well. Anyway, hopefully you guys really did enjoy the video, and if you have any questions or want any general trading help, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below and I will try my best to get back to you. And until next time guys, thanks for watching.